Um, so in this section, I thought I would share a little bit about I suppose you would call my master, my beloved, and it's Ramana Maharshi. Has anybody heard of him? He was I knew nothing about him actually when I met my teacher, but when I was in Mexico, the time I described, I was on the floor looking at the altar, and there was a picture of him, and I was just wondering, I wonder who he is, and all of a sudden I just felt like this arrow, it was like he airlifted right into here, into my heart, and I was in love. And he was an Indian sage. He died in 1950. He had an awakening at age 16, and soon after that he felt this magnetic pull towards a holy mountain, quite like Shasta, but it's in southern India, called Arunachala. And he went there, gave away what little he had, and lived in silence for 20 years. People would come up and put food in his mouth, and they'd come back the next day and the food would still be there. And he was just absolutely absorbed in God. And I think he would have probably stayed that way forever, but the world needed him. And what brought him out of silence was a man called Ganapati Muni, who was himself a spiritual teacher and also a renowned poet. And he heard about this holy man living on the mountain, and he raced up to him and fell at his feet, and he implored him to give him the key to freedom. He said, I've done tapas, which is austerities, for years. I've read all the scriptures, I've chanted, I've done everything I possibly can, and I'm still not free. What am I doing? What do I need still? And Ramana was so moved by his humility that he spoke, and what he said was, I'm paraphrasing, but find out who it is who is wanting to be free. Find out who it is who's tortured by this. Get to the source of the I, and then you will be free. And basically it was a lesson in self-inquiry. And, self-inquiry is just asking that question we must all have asked ourselves millions of times. Who am I? Who am I really beyond this body? And I wrote a poem about that, so I'll share that next. Who am I? Dip your heart in the golden question, and the ocean of knowing will yield its answer. What has always been you will disrobe, will unveil itself, so you may marry your beauty, your singular truth, so you may become that one love. Sorry, it's hard to read. So you may become that one love that has waited lifetimes, that has never, ever abandoned you. Fall into me, lay down the past, let your mind be free of its shackles, so you may shine as that light, O illumined one, your very birthright for eternity. And Ramana said there are two paths. I mean, every path leads home. We know that. But he said the two that were the fastest, maybe, were devotion and self-inquiry. And it really depends on the personality of the person. Devotion is just complete surrender, giving your life over to God and letting happen what happens. Self-inquiry uses the mind to dissemble the mind, and they both get back to the same place. So let me see. Are you doing okay? I know it's a lot. One more thing about Ramana was that I have personally loved always have adored about him. He was kind of like St. Francis, and the animals and the birds and the creatures adored him. Snakes would sit in his lap, scorpions would crawl all over his body, the monkeys made a home in his lap. And I actually spent many years just reading anything I could find, stories about his life. And I ended up, I wrote this book under here, The Boy Who Would Be Sage, and it's his life, episodes from his life in poems. And I read this story about a Scottish lady who went to sit with him, and he used to love to walk on the mountain like we love walking on Shasta. He said that there wasn't an inch of that mountain that he hadn't actually set foot on. And this Scottish lady was curious, and she decided to follow him when he went for his evening walks. And this is what she saw. It's called Royal Flush. I hope I can read it. I should have brought glasses. Oh, do you? Yeah, I think I better. I'm afraid I've reached that age. Oh, better. Thank you. Thank you. So it's called Royal Flush. The Scottish lady wrote that every evening she followed Ramana as he went on his evening stroll. She saw cows straining at their leash, unable to contain their love for he who gave them all. Once released, they raced along the trail to catch up with their beloved. A charm of dogs and children ambled in their wake, and then a deer, monkeys, half a dozen snakes. Out of the air, 1,000 swallows glutted the sky, so many they formed an ink stain on the horizon. Vultures, too, swirled and dipped to pay their respect to his eminence. All this she witnessed in awe and wonder, a thunder of kites spinning round his crown, until the father of their family circled round to home, and, as if in a dream, the birds melted back into the trees. The cows, satisfied, settled in their stall. The vultures gave up flight, and a peace suffused the mountain, all now graced by he who is king of all. So to me, it's just so beautiful. There are many stories of him. There was a cow, Lakshmi, that was madly in love with him, and she lived the other end of the village, and every morning as soon as she got out of her stall, she'd run through the village and knock everybody over to get to him. And she actually attained samadhi. She was liberated when she died. So let me see. Yeah, eventually an ashram formed around Ramana. I mean, everybody sensed how holy he was, and the thing with this journey is, eventually the master, whoever it is, the God, at least on this path of silence, you start to hear him inside, and he lures you more and more deeply inside. And there have been many exquisite experiences of that. I mean, days just gone from this world. And this is a poem I wrote about one of those experiences, and it's called The Invitation. Here we go. When the master calls and you lay down your arms and you rest open and clear as the breeze, he lures you on the silkiest thread into his deepest reaches. And you melt into the lap of God, so soft and kind and warm, yet vaster than all galaxies. The sweetest rose, the singing bird, all language rendered speechless. And even the breath, that precious bridge, collapses to its knees, until there is only one heart enraptured love folded into itself, and it is heaven and home, and you've always belonged, and how could you ever leave? Yet somehow again you form eyes and limbs, and the mind, that stubborn thief, insists on speaking. But the taste of such grace lingers, and you carry into the dream that sacred gift, your secret, emblazoned now by your perfect lover's kiss.